Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about the role of research in enhancing the quality of higher education. Now, there has been a discussion for quite some time. What happened to the higher education quality in the country? If you talk about in the past, the quality of education in the Indian universities was excellent, and the research was also excellent. If you have whatever Nobel Prizes that the country has received, most of them, they were all in the university systems. Unfortunately, nowadays, there are no Nobel Prizes, and the quality of research is also, quality of teaching is also declining. And unfortunately, the universities are becoming the factories for producing even PhDs and the graduate degrees. Somewhere we need to think and do what has gone wrong. So we have about 600 universities. I'm not going to spend too much of a time on this. About 35,000 colleges, about 13 million students, but still our GER is only about 18% at the moment, which is improved substantially. Now, if this GR has to go to about 40%, we need to have even more colleges, we need to have even more universities. And this is also a fact that higher education is a driver for the economic competitiveness in an increasingly knowledge-driven global economy. While this is a fact, the employability potential of our graduates and the postgraduate is very, very poor. And as per the data published by the Skill Development Corporation of India, for the conventional courses, as you know, it is only about 5%, whereas for the for the professional courses, it is about 25%. So that is a sad tragedy. I will come to this research definition later on. But let us look at the past of in the Indian university. So what are the technical and the scientific achievements of the Indian scientists? Very brief review I am going to take, and then coming to the role of research. Algorithm, which is used in the computer science, was developed in the country. Science of algebra came from India. Concept of zero came from our country. Techniques of manufacturing crystal sugar again came from India. The making of a camphor came from India. The making of a tea, that is sthira that we call it, again it has come from India. Kung Fu, which is a derivation of yoga, has come from our country. The earliest recorded use of a copperware that is also, it has come from India. Sanskrit, the mother of all the European languages, again, and that is also a basis for the computer software also has come from India, sorry. World's first university established in Takshashila, that was in India, and Nalanda, which was a more organized university, that is in the 4th century BC, again from this country. Ayurveda, the earliest school of medicine known to humans, the Charaka, the father of medicine, again from our country. Great Indian scientists, you know the names, but I'll just have a very quick look at them. Aryabhatta was the first to proclaim that the earth is round. It rotates on its axis. And then he is also acknowledged for the calculating the pi value to 4 decimal places. And his contribution in establishing the concept of zero is appreciated world over. The same is with Bhaskara, the genius in algebra, Nagarjuna, who discovered lots of in the metallurgical discoveries. Then Acharya Bharadwaja, who was a pioneer in aviation technology. Then Acharya Patanjali, who was the father of yoga. So Indian scientists have played a stellar role in the development of India. In the short span of its post-independence history, India has achieved several great scientific achievements. And Indian scientists have proved their mettle at the international level also. And some of them, of course, you know, Chandrasekhar, C.V. Raman, which is known for the C.V. Raman effect. Jahangir Baba, everybody knows his contribution. Chandranath Bose, an outstanding Indian physicist, known for his work in quantum physics. And Bose-Einstein theory is very well known. Then Vishwasariya, for whom, all the dams and all these things would not have probably been there. Then Chandrasekhar was one of the greatest scientists of the 20th century, did commendable work in astrophysics, physics, and applied mathematics. Then Srinivas Ramanujan was a mathematician par excellence. Then Shantiswarup Bhatnagar, who established the CSIR, and in whose name the Bhatnagar Awards have been introduced. G.M. Ramachandran, who missed the Nobel Prize, maybe for political reasons, but the great contribution. Then, of course, Sarabhai, that whatever we see in the space, mostly credited to him. So all these things has been done. Okay, these are great discoveries, great discovery by any best standards at the international level, mostly happened in the Indian universities. What has happened now that these discoveries or such type of a scientist or such type of high quality research is not taking place in the Indian universities now. Now, what are the reasons for declining research quality? Let us understand. Something about 50-60 years back, the Indian universities or the Indian institutes were starving for the funds. There was hardly any fund. There was a huge problem of the foreign exchange. Under that condition, the research outputs of the country was excellent, particularly of the universities. As the population started increasing and the number of students in the colleges and the universities number started rising, somehow, somewhere in the minds of the policy makers, it occurred that let the universities or the colleges concentrate on teaching, and research probably could be done by somebody else. And then came the concept of a national research institutes. So national research institutes started coming up, and they were meant for research, they were meant for technological development for the requirement of this country. So they were more pampered, lots of infrastructure was developed, lots of financial support and other support was provided to the national institutes for doing research, R&D, for development of technology. And universities, the conventional university were left with the job of teaching, without understanding that research and teaching, these are two inseparable things. If you want to maintain the quality of a teaching, we are talking about quality of teaching, but these two cannot be separated. The quality of teaching depends on the quality of research. Somewhere this was lost, and that is why the alternate started developing. It so happened that the people who were entrusted with the responsibility of developing technologies for the national development, ultimately they also forgot about their primary responsibility of a technology development. They have taken over themselves the responsibility of the universities in terms of producing PhDs, and now most of these national institutes are in the area of doing basic research leading to the research degrees. So you take off, you talk about the CSIR laboratories, you talk about DBT institutes, you talk about ICR, you talk about ICMR, you talk about everybody. All these institutes which are primarily responsible for development of a technology, now they are in the process of developing human resource, ultimately awarding the degrees also. So the role of universities has been taken over by them. Now with the best possible infrastructure available with them, if you look at the availability of the fund, availability of the infrastructure, and then look at the research output, and then compare with the universities, you will understand that the number of students with these institutes and also with the central university is not going to be more than 5%. But the funds made available to them will be at least to the tune about 80%, whereas the conventional universities, which has a student population to the extent about 85%, will have a funds maybe about 10 to 15%. That is the tragedy. But in spite of all that, we in the university should not try to find it out excuses. Let us try to understand what are the problems and where we have gone wrong and what can be done. So the large number of affiliated colleges have come up, large number of students. In fact, some time back, there was a data in Times of India. Osmania University is number 1 as far as size is concerned. Okay? And Pune University, which I represent, number 2. In Pune University, there are about, at the moment, about 7.5 lakh students. 7.5 lakhs students. Not a joke, not a joke. About more than 700 colleges, more than 20,000 faculty members. It's very difficult to manage it administratively, financially, and otherwise. So, as I mentioned, the teaching has become is the primary responsibility of a teacher. A lack of research culture in the colleges and many of the university campus. Passion for research and teaching, somehow this is something which has been forgotten, And that is one of the most important reason for the declining research quality in the university. Another thing, as I mentioned, lack of research infrastructure. High quality research is not a prerequisite for appointments or promotion. You look at all that API and all those things which has been brought in by UGC and NAC and so many things. These have no meaning. In a real sense, the research quality is not assessed. Somebody goes and make a presentation anywhere, and if he make 2-3 types of this presentation, he becomes eligible for the next promotion. Has he published a paper in high impact factor journal? Has his paper been cited by somebody else? So meaningful assessment has not been carried out. So whether you are, symbolically associated with the research, okay, and then if you produce some paper in international journal, and that international journal is emerging from some corners in some corners of the country, has no taker, okay, and this type of research is rewarded, that is a tragedy. Whereas earlier, when people were used to take admission for a PhD, they had a passion for research. It was not for publishing any type of a paper. It was not for getting a degree, whereas you had in yourself that I want to do some quality research. That is why you were taking admission for PhD. Now it is just to get a degree so that you become eligible for the post of lecturership. So R&D spending is very bad in country. Successive governments are talking about that we have to increase it at least to the tune about 2%, but even today it has not gone to more than 0.9% of your GDP. Whereas in countries like China, it has crossed 1.4% and it is almost touching to about 3-4%. And number of researchers per million population, that is also quite large in the developed countries. So you have the highest number of researchers per million population in Ireland. It's followed by US, followed by UK, even China is much more. So whereas in Ireland it is 6,807, in India it is only 119. Such a huge gap. I'm not going to talk about all these things, but all these data, they indicate the very poor allocation of a budgetary provision for research in the country when we compare with India, China, US, and the European Unions. Now, this is something, changing trends in the number and a global share of a scientific publication from SCI data. Now, the trends during till about 80s and 90s was really very, very bad. But fortunately, after 2000, there is a improvement. There is a improvement in terms of the number of publications, also in terms of the quality of publications. Maybe the various initiatives that have been launched by the central government probably could be responsible for that, but now you have the increase in the number of publications as well as the citation India. But in spite of all that, countries like China, countries like Singapore, countries like Vietnam, countries like Thailand, Korea, they are well ahead of India at the moment. Whereas in the 50s and 60s, India was a leader at Asia level. At the moment, there are at least 5, 6 Asian countries which are well ahead of us. So we need to be worried about it. This is again a comparative performance with respect to the SCI journals. So India stands quite low. This is again a citation character. So as I mentioned that during the last decade there is very good news in terms of a lot of universities are they have shown improvement as far as the number of publication is concerned, and also the quality of publication is also concerned. Punjab University is ranked quite highly. It comes in the first in the top 250, whereas Indian Institute of Technology Delhi and Kharagpur, they are also doing very well. And so there is a marginal increase. This is again research output. I am not going into the details of this data, but if you look at it from 50s, 60s, and then 80s and 90s. So 80s and 90s you have a decline, but 2000 onwards we have a marginal increase. So importance of research in teaching, and now let us understand that. Research should not be treated as a formality, but there has to be, there is a relationship between teaching and research. In fact, I am again and again emphasizing the quality of a teaching depends on the quality of a research. Unless we understand this, and unless everybody in the university understand this, that seriousness of research will not be there. So let us understand that. So teaching can be research-led. In the sense, curriculum is structured around the subject content. That is one thing. Content selected is based on the research interest and the expertise of the teacher. Now that is very, very important. We are talking about a choice-based credit system. When choice-based credit system has to be given, the person who is a teacher, who is an expert in this area, he has the freedom to introduce the course that he wants. He has the freedom to design the curriculum that he wanted, and he will do it on the basis of his own research area. He will do it on the basis of his own research expertise. That is very, very important. Now, if you are a researcher, then only you can do that, otherwise it's not possible. So teaching should be research-oriented. Curriculum should emphasize on understanding the processes by which knowledge is produced. Priority has to be given to the teaching of inquiry skills and not acquiring research. So that inquiry-based teaching has to be there. So thinking has to be changed, attitude has to be changed. Project work becomes very, very important in this. And that project work has to be a project work. That project should not be obtained from any of the stationery shops, and many of the universities, this is what is happening. So if that seriousness is not there, and in fact, many of the PhD theses also, you can get it at the stationery shop, but if that is what is happening, then you have a problem, and there is already a problem in many of the universities. I don't want to go into the details, I don't want to name the universities also. But there are shops, which is a fact, that is a reality. There are research guides hired from the various universities. They are paid right in advance. Checks have been issued. This is a check in advance, you become a guide. And after you become a guide, and then tell me what is your price for guiding a thesis, and accordingly they will recover money from the students. This is a practice which is happening, and that is why you have a poor quality of research, which ultimately leads to the poor quality of a teaching. Teaching can be research-based in the sense that a curriculum is designed around inquiry-based activities rather than acquisition of a subject knowledge. So here it is again and again, it is the inquiry-based, not just knowledge, acquiring the knowledge. So teaching can be research or informed in the sense that it draws consciously on the systematic inquiry into teaching and learning process itself. Research-based academic studies are the promoter of higher order learning outcomes. That is the initial thinking, and transferable research related to the capabilities expected of higher education. Students need to acquire the ability of problem solving. That is something very, very important. The credit system is very, very important. That is one thing. And the way that we assess, that is again very, very important. What is the type of a question paper that we are setting up? Are we asking a straightforward question? If that is the case, then you mug up and then solve it. But can we have an open book examination? Can we give some analytical question? If we do that, then only that type of skills can be developed. That conventional methods of a teaching and assessment evaluation has to go. That critical thinking, analysis-based learning has to be promoted. If that happens, then only the employability potential will go. Fundamental knowledge is very, very important. That cannot be. That skill-related courses has to come in the curriculum, but the fundamental courses cannot be ignored, because skill-related courses can be learned only if your fundamentals are strong, and that has to be always promoted. So if your basics or concepts are very strong, you can learn anything. So there has to be a balance between the fundamental courses and the skill-related courses. If we do that, and then we have a different type of evaluation system, the system will definitely improve. So key function of education is to teach students to think critically, creatively, and effectively. It is precisely the capacity to think which enables students to acquire new knowledge and teachers to recognize the value of gaining knowledge. Now, these are the things. If there is an inquiry-based learning, okay, and that is possible if somebody is a researcher. So it is the faculty member who has to be a researcher, it is the student who has to be a researcher. Scientific thinking is very, very important because it is directed, self-directed, self-disciplined, self-monitoring, and self-corrective. It presupposes assent to rigorous standards of excellence and mindful command of their use. So therefore, it is very, very important. It entails effective communication and problem-solving abilities, as well as the commitment to development, scientific skills, abilities, and disposition. So what all these things is a must. So what Albert Einstein said, we owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. Many of the advances in the sciences that we consider today have been made in Europe, were in fact made in India centuries ago. That is what Grant Duff says. At the moment, if you look at it, and these are the facts, there are about 3.22 million Indians in America. 38% of the doctors in America are Indians. 12% of scientists in America are Indians. 36% of NASA employees are Indians. 34% of Microsoft employees are Indians. 28% of IBM employees are Indians. And 70% of Intel employees are Indians. 13% of Xerox employees are Indian. So Indians are doing so well abroad. What has happened in the country? Why can't they do the same way here in the country? They do. They can do. We have a long way to go. What we have is a village classroom, and what we have is the classroom in the urban. Now, if you look at the village classroom, most of the students learn here. I'll put it, something like 70% of the students are here. They are intelligent. There is no opportunity. Here there are very few students. Many of them in this, they go abroad. Both are intellectual. Both can deliver. Here, some of the students get an opportunity, some of the students do not get an opportunity. Somebody who gets an opportunity, he proves whether it is US or any other, that they prove. The same, these students coming from the villages, they can also do it provided they get an opportunity. So we have to plan, we have to use this talent. If we are not able to use this talent, we have the problems. So somewhere planning strategies need to be re-looked into. So steps to improve the research output. Restore the glory of teacher and the teaching provision. Earlier, as somebody who is a professor used to be the most respected person. Most respected person. Today, somebody doesn't get a job anywhere, he becomes a lecturer. This is the most unfortunate thing. And I am a Vice Chancellor, I was a teacher, I know it. There are teachers who are working for 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 rupees salary. How can they give their best? Can they improve their skills? And why this has become like this? So that glory, that passion for a teaching is not there. It is out of compulsion that somebody is coming to the teaching profession. So introduce a choice-based system at the UG level and the PG level. And when I say choice-based credit system, I really mean it. Not calling the present system, renaming it as a credit system, but introduce the credit system, which is understand the meaning of a credit system is very, very important to understand the meaning of credit system. It's entirely a different type of a system. First understand and then introduce it. Because many of the universities have just renamed the system, They have not made any change. So assess academic institutes and teachers on the basis of research quality. Strengthen research infrastructure in colleges and the university. Many of these things, they do have infrastructure, but that infrastructure may not be adequate for a good quality research. And some institutes may have the infrastructure, but they may not have a faculty to do the research. That's a problem. Many of the universities and the colleges at the moment are facing a serious faculty crunch. The qualified, competent, experienced faculty is just not there, even in the topmost universities in the country. And that is something which we need to be worried about. So, provide more fellowships and grants for the research in the state universities. As I mentioned, the funding that is available for the state universities is negligible as compared to what is available to the central universities and the central institutes. That RUSA is a great thing to have happened. That is one scheme which is going to make a difference. That is going to make a difference, provided it is implemented in all the state. Provided it is implemented in the all state, because 35% of the burden has to be borne by the states. 35% contribution has to be from the state, and I do not know how many states will make that contribution. And the first condition is that every state who wants to implement RUSA have to give an undertaking that 35% of the grant will be extended, then only RUSA will come to that state. Otherwise, it will not go to that state. So that is very, very important. Even in the current budget plan, 22.5 thousand crores of allocation is there. It's a huge money, and I think that for the first time, the government has made such type of a provision need to be complemented. So universities should not become a factories for producing PhD. That has no meaning. Get into a serious business of a research. Forget about, because this has become the worst thing, that people who have no passion for research, they are not doing any research as such, but just because they want a PhD degree. Earlier, very rarely somebody will come for research. We will evaluate that person, assess him for 6 months, 1 year, before giving him a registration for a PhD. Now, conduct the entrance examination, and if he qualifies it, admit him for a PhD. This is no real research. So, positive initiative of the Government of India, UPE program, University with Potential for Excellence, that program has made huge difference. PERSA, Promotion of University Research for Scientific Education, that is a program which is launched by DST, beautiful program. It has made tremendous difference as far as research infrastructure is concerned, research competency is concerned in the universities. That INSPIRE program of a DST, I do not know how many universities have implemented it, but we have implemented it. The faculty is selected by DST and the university together. Their salary comes from DST. These are highly talented candidates, mostly coming from abroad. They work in the university, they are faculty members. It's a great program. People must take advantage of that. Same is the case with the faculty rehire program of UGC. Star College program of a DBT, that is another very good program. RUSA, of course, I mentioned about it. And various types of fellowships launched by the government of India, particularly the UGC. These are the things which made a lot of difference. That graph that we see, 2000 onwards, that increases, that shows increase in the number of a publication and the quality of a publication is because of such type of initiative launched by the government of India. So there is some seriousness, though some much more need to be done. Some of the practices in Pune University, this is the last slide that I'm going to talk about. The first thing that we have done just about 2 years back is formulated a research policy. The people who are engaged in research, if they are doing good research, if they are publishing in a high impact factor journal, if their H index is very high, if their citation is very high, we are going to reward them. Monetarily also and grant wise also. Plagiarism, that is something which we are very serious about. Every research paper has to go through the software and plagiarism. Every research, every PhD thesis has to go through that. When there is a certificate from this section which monitors plagiarism with the help of a software, turn it in, okay? So only when it is certified that the thesis is not plagiarized or a research paper is not plagiarized, then only we permit that paper to be published, then only we permit that thesis should be submitted. Quality improvement program for the colleges and university department that we have started. About 20 to 25 crores that we spend every year on this, where we provide a grant to the colleges and the university department for doing research. Central instrument facilities we have established in the colleges and the university departments. Every year we spend about 25 to 30 crores on this. We have 3-4 centers. So that at 3-4 centers we have established this facility from the simplest possible equipment to the most sophisticated equipment. We have placed it there. That is open for the faculty member, that is open for the students at a nominal cost, and everybody takes benefit of that. Board for Colleges and University Development, that is the academic section of our university, they provide projects to the young faculty members. Again, about 7 to 8 crores of rupees every year we spend on that. That is like a seed money. You initiate the research and after that you can apply for the grant. From our own funds, we have established National Fellowship for Research. Every year we are introduced 100 fellowship, 25,000 more than the CSR and UGC, that amount we pay. 30,000 rupees as a contingency. This is based on the national level competitive examination. The people who qualify at the national level, they get this fellowship. This is again an initiative to attract best talents in the research. But we monitor it also. Unless there is a publication every year, after 2 years, this fellowship may not be continued. Department research grant we are giving to every department so that they can continue with their research. And that is why our H index has substantially gone up. In fact, DST's assessment, if you look at it, the Punjab University is at the moment in 90s. Then we have Jadavpur University, Delhi University, Hyderabad Central University, BHU. So there are about 6-7 universities which are in the first category, where there is a substantial increase in the H index. Pune University is one of them. So because of all these initiatives, there is a substantial increase in the quality of research. So we need to plan at the university level, we need to plan at the national level. But if we do it with seriously, things will definitely change. But we have to understand that teaching cannot be taken separately, and research and teaching, these are the two integral part of the same system. Thank you very much.